You're sitting across from someone you love, and you're not actually there. Your phone is face down on the table. Your coffee is still warm. But your mind? Your mind left about 3 minutes ago, and they know it. They felt it the moment your eyes glazed over. That specific kind of absence that says, I'm here, but I'm not choosing you right now. And the worst part is, you felt it too. This isn't about distraction. This is about something much more fundamental that most people never name, which is why their relationships keep degrading in the exact same way, over and over, across years and sometimes decades. Here's what's actually happening. You've lost the thread between who you are and who you're being with other people. The two have become so separated that when you're with them, you're performing a version of yourself that isn't quite authentic. And they can feel that inauthenticity. It registers as distance, not coldness, distance. The kind that makes someone feel alone while sitting next to you. The research is specific on this. Psychologist Harriet Lerner studied couples who reported feeling disconnected despite living in the same house. And she found something striking. The disconnect didn't start with the other person. It started with a person's inability to articulate, even to themselves, what they actually wanted, what they actually felt, what they actually needed in that moment. They'd lost contact with their own internal landscape. So when they showed up in the relationship, they were showing up as a guess, not a presence. And guessing is exhausting. It's also invisible to the other person, which means they interpret your exhaustion as rejection. The fix isn't date nights. It's not communication classes. It's not even therapy, though therapy can help. The fix is something that happens before you ever open your mouth to another human being. It's called reflection. And it's the most radical act you can do for your relationships right now because nobody's doing it anymore. Reflection has become a luxury item. Everyone's too busy reacting to emails, to news, to other people's versions of their own lives on screens. You wake up, you're already behind, you respond all day, you collapse at night. And somewhere in that cycle, you lost touch with what you actually think about your own life. You lost the habit of sitting with yourself long enough to know what's true for you versus what you've absorbed from everyone around you. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most of the conflicts in your closest relationships aren't actually about the surface issue. Your partner didn't hurt your feelings because they forgot to ask how your day was. Your best friend didn't betray you because of one comment. Your family didn't disappoint you because of one choice. Those are the stories you tell. But the actual wound underneath is this. You haven't checked in with yourself about what you actually need from these people. So when they inevitably fail to read your mind, which they will because they're human, you feel unseen. And unseen feels personal. Reflection is the practice of sitting down and asking yourself 3 specific questions before you blame anyone else. The first question is, what am I actually feeling right now? Not what should you be feeling, not what makes sense to feel. What are you actually feeling? Most women have been trained to skip this step. You go straight to managing the feeling, you minimize it, you excuse it, you reframe it into something more palatable for other people. But that skip is the poison, because the feeling doesn't disappear. It gets stored, it gets weaponized. It leaks out as resentment toward people who never actually hurt you the way you think they did. The second question is, what do I need from this relationship right now? And this can't be answered from a space of obligation or conditioning. This has to be honest. You might need more autonomy. You might need more intimacy. You might need someone to stop trying to fix you. You might need permission to grow in a direction that scares the people who love you. Most relationships deteriorate not because love disappears, but because one person stops knowing what they need and the other person stops asking. They fall into a groove of assumption. and assumptions are where connection goes to die. The third question is, am I showing up as myself or as a version of myself that I think they'll accept? This one cuts deeper than the others. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. You are partially responsible for how other people treat you, not because you caused their behavior, but because you taught them what version of you was acceptable to be around. If you show up as smaller, they'll treat you as small. If you show up as unclear about your own needs, they'll stop trying to read you. If you show up as someone who can handle anything without complaint, they'll stop checking in on you. You're not being selfless, you're being invisible. And invisible people in relationships experience a specific kind of loneliness that's actually worse than being alone, because you're being rejected while someone is literally looking at you. The practice, and this is where most people fail, isn't just thinking about these questions. It's writing them down. Neurologically, writing activates a different part of your brain than thinking does. When you write, you externalize the thought. You can see it. You can question it. You can change it. Thinking just loops. You have the same thought 17 times and convince yourself it's the truth because you've repeated it so often. Writing breaks the loop. Even 5 minutes a week, just you and a page. And these 3 questions rewires how you show up in every relationship you have. But here's the trap that gets most people. They do this work, and then they expect other people to instantly respond differently. They get clearer about their needs, and they wait for their partner to suddenly be more attentive. They get honest about their feelings, and they're shocked when someone gets defensive instead of just understanding. And then they think the reflection work didn't work. It did work. What didn't work is the expectation that other people would change at the same speed you changed. This is actually the hidden layer of the process. Reflection isn't just about becoming clear. It's about becoming someone who can handle the fact that other people might not change, even when you change. You become someone who can love people without losing yourself. You become someone who can be alone in a room full of people and not feel lonely. You become someone who can distinguish between, this person doesn't understand me, and I haven't given this person the real me to understand. Those are completely different problems with completely different solutions. So the cycle looks like this. You reflect on what you feel, what you need, and how you're showing up. Then you bring that clarity into your relationships. Then something shifts. Not because they changed, but because you did. You're less reactive. You're less resentful. You're less willing to perform. And people respond to that. Not immediately. Not always. But the ones who matter do. They relax. They stop trying to guess what will make you happy because you've told them. They stop competing with a ghost version of you that they could never quite reach. And then, this is the part that's hardest to accept. Some people don't respond well to the real you. Some people were actually more comfortable with the version of you that was smaller, less demanding, less honest. When you change, they might pull away. That's not a failure of the reflection practice. That's feedback. That's you learning what was actually being offered in that relationship. Sometimes the reflection teaches you that a relationship has an expiration date. Sometimes it teaches you that you have more capacity for depth than a particular person is willing to go. Sometimes it teaches you that you've been abandoning yourself in service of keeping peace with someone who isn't even trying to keep peace with you. They're just keeping you managed. This is where the morality gets blurry, because reflection doesn't just improve your relationships. It also ends them, or changes them, or downgrades them from intimate to polite. And you can't have the benefits without accepting this cost. You can't become more honest and expect everyone to stay. You can't become clearer about your needs and expect everyone to meet them. You can't stop abandoning yourself and expect the people who benefited from your self-abandonment to cheer. The growth doesn't feel like pure gain. It feels like loss and gain at the same time. You lose some people. You lose the comfort of not knowing yourself. You lose the ability to blame them entirely because you're now aware of what you chose and when and why. But you gain relationships that are actually real. You gain a life where the people around you are choosing you, not a version of you. You gain the ability to be alone without it feeling like abandonment. And then you repeat. You sit down again. You reflect again. Because growth isn't a destination. It's a practice. Every season of your life requires a different version of honesty. Every person in your life requires a new version of clarity. The women who end up with the deepest, most resilient relationships aren't the ones who found the right people. They're the ones who kept showing up as the right person, which means they kept checking in with themselves about who they actually were. Connection doesn't happen when two people are in the same room. It happens when two people have both checked in with themselves enough to actually show up. Remember, connect with yourself and the people who matter. Reflect on your thoughts, choices, relationships, and experiences. Repeat the process until growth becomes a way of life.